Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at johnnydellsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website JFA49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag JD49.
What is up this morning, faithful? Give me a quick mic check in the chat. I am once again flying solo. Cheers from Brazil, Leo. I'm flying solo. Adam has some work obligations. So thank you, everybody coming in, getting involved in the chat. It's awesome. If you wonder why we do that, that is not just so that we can get more views. It's so that YouTube will actually recommend these videos to more people, to people just like you. It's not necessarily all that we just need that things boosted. It's that we want more people to discover what it is and join us in these shows as part of our 49ers faithful community and people just like you. YouTube will look at it and they'll say, okay, this person likes the video. That's why everybody says like the video. It's a positive engagement. And then they say not only that, but people are like the video so much they want to actively engage with what is happening. That's all good. And more people will be recommended the video as to get in here and see what it is and join the conversation. That's what we really want, is people to join the football conversation. And we this morning are going to be talking about a big matchup this week of two teams that not necessarily everybody believed starting the year that would be as two teams pretty much at the top of the NFC by week 6. This is a little wild. The Eagles last night dropped a game to the New York Football Giants. I don't think many of us saw that coming going into it. They were 8.5 point underdogs, I think, or 7.5 point underdogs. We were 7.5 point underdogs last week. These short week divisional games on Thursday Night Football have actually been pretty amazing because there's a lot of upsets happening. But I don't know if you know this. The former 2019 NFC champions, the 2021 NFC championship game competitors, 2022, 2023 NFC champion San Francisco 49ers are right now in first place in the NFC. We didn't see this coming necessarily. We thought maybe near the end of the year that the 49ers might have a chance as they kind of came together and gelled as a team. But right now, they are number 1 in the NFC. And number 2, the team they're playing, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, who would have thought? Week 6, Tampa Bay, San Francisco battling for the number 1 spot in the NFC. That's wild. It's not something we expected, but we are glad to be here. Now, I will say neither of these teams feel like the front runners. I think when people think about the front runners in the NFC right now, they're thinking about the Detroit Lions or thinking about the Green Bay Packers. We were thinking about the Eagles, but they seem to be a hot mess right now. There are some reports that A.J. Brown was heard screaming outside the locker room, or screaming inside the locker room from outside the locker room last night. After their loss, they are dealing with lots of offensive woes. That picks, well, almost a pick six, but the interception that Jalen Hurts threw last night was a little rough. Oh, man, coming in. Thank you so much, Mr. Cayman. Hey, check out the Cayman's Island podcast. Just click on his profile link there, or on him in the chat. It will take you to his channel, and you can see he does a 49ers podcast already. Check him out. Subscribe to his channel. He's coming in supporting us over here. Let's turn around and support him as well. He's got that great Southern accent, that great Alabama accent. So check him out. He talks about the 49ers. He doesn't go live like I do. He is more polished. So he says, do you guys feel like winning this Bucs game would give more incentive to get a big name or two at the trade deadline? Or do you think they will get a stopgap regardless? I think they are in a situation where they want this team to prove it to them that they are worth giving up some draft assets for the future for now, because they're really in a place where they need to replace Nick Bosa, but they're worried about, are you about to see 4 rookies on defense hit the rookie wall come early December? What's that going to look like? Is this team, it's a team that's been able to get a bunch of close wins, but if you go and lose the next 4 games, we've sat here and invested next year's draft capital into a season for a 1-year rental on a season that wasn't going anywhere anyways. That's not that is a good way to be a poverty franchise, is to continually try and plug the leaks in the ship while you haven't actually figured out where the ship is trying to go. So I do think that there's a little bit of prove it here with the team, and not even as much that they've told the team, hey, you need to go prove that we should replace one of your teammates. Not as much that. I think it's more that the team has to feel like, okay, what cost are we willing to pay with this roster and the state of this team? If this team, I do believe that they want to address that somehow for this season, so that they can also get a better evaluation of all the talent around some of these young players and some of the other guys. So I do think they are trying to actively find somebody, but what kind of tier of player are you looking for will be determined by how they do. And I think they also are, then that's causing them to be in a wait and see mode. You don't want to go and send off a 6th round pick to go get somebody and have assets invested and then say, well, you know what, we probably should have actually invested a 3rd and gotten somebody a little bit better. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to invest a 3rd and then, you know, have another rash of injuries and you're sitting there at 5 and 6 and say, okay, you know, this in hindsight was a bad idea. We were too optimistic, and now we've invested a 3rd round pick that we really could have used that in 2026 and 2027. So I think they're justified in being in a wait and see mode. They're also looking at, do prices come down for players as teams get farther and farther out of contention, like the Bengals. The Bengals are our team. I think they are in wait and see mode to watch. I think the Raiders are a team that they're in wait and see. I don't necessarily mean the Raiders as far as Max Crosby. They could be looking at somebody else. Same with the Bengals. They may be looking for Trey Hendrickson. They might be looking for somebody else. Do their prices come down as they are farther and farther out of contention? So do you kind of, and if you look at their landscape, you say, they're probably out of it. Now the Giants' prices for Thibodeau just went up because they're looking at that. If the Eagles are really truly about to fall apart and they're surging, I mean, while I'm not saying that the Giants are world beaters at 2-4, they went toe to toe in their last game, and then they ended up beating the team that was number 1 in the NFC. And you look at their division, it's not exactly, you know, blowing everybody away right now, because you have a bunch of teams that are just kind of there. The Commanders are 3-2. So they're only one game ahead right now of the New York Giants, and we'll see what happens this weekend. The Cowboys are 2-2-1, so they're just half a game ahead of the New York Giants. As it stands right now, they still have their games to play this weekend. But if you're the Giants and you're saying, well, we just took down the Eagles, and the other teams in our division aren't necessarily looking that strong, and now that we've solidified a little bit more with Jackson Dart and Cam Scattaboo, and we have a really talented defensive front, they did go out and get Darius Alexander. I was a big proponent of Darius Alexander. They're saying that the division is wide open. They're not just going to let Thibodeau out the door now. So that does make his price go up. I still believe Bradley Chubb is the target, the ideal target right now, because it makes sense for both teams. So that's where it goes. But we will and know more about the rest of the teams in the NFC. We will move on to the matchup of the 49ers and Buccaneers. This is a big time matchup. These are two teams that, if you were really to look at each other and say they are so similar but also different in the way they are similar, these are those two teams. I mean, they are both teams that are not running the ball also all too great. They are two very injured teams. They are two teams that are passing the ball very effectively, but they're going about it in very different ways. And they are teams that could easily be 1-5 or 1-4, but they are 4-1, because these are teams that seem to have gutted out and inched out close wins. When you look at the 49ers and Buccaneers, their average margin of victory for the 49ers is 27th in the league at 3.2 points per game. The Buccaneers, they are 30th in the league at 2.2 points per game. Their average margin of victory, these are two teams that are winning by less than 3.3 points per game in their 4-1. Their record in close games, both of them, is their record. It's 4-1. They have not had a game that wasn't close. Both teams are playing this way, so they very well, each of these teams are a handful of plays of being almost last in the conference, but have found a way to make those plays in crucial moments of the games to be 4-1. They are both not necessarily playing to what they want their identity to be, but they are still playing and managing to win close games. When you look at what do the Buccaneers want to be, they want to be on defense a disruptive team. That is all what Todd Bowles is all about. He has a massive catalog of pressure pass and pressure packages, and he wants to use all of them. He wants to use a lot of fire zones that become matching zones. He wants to run a lot of man coverage. He wants to then drop 8 men in coverage, including Vita Vea. When we played him last year, one of the funniest things I saw on film was watching Vita Vea drop into coverage and try and cover Christian McCaffrey. That is a matchup, is just a matchup of hilarity that I think we can all get behind happening this week. But they want to stop the run first, and then they want to then put a lot of onus and pressure in different ways, or I guess a workload on the opposing quarterback. But they do it in two different ways. The Buccaneers love to blitz on third down. They have a massive array of blitzes. They have a lot of different coverages that they play behind it. Tons of different fire zones, 2 deep, 3 deep, 4 deep fire zones. They love man coverage. They love to then have sim pressures where they're going to make it look like one of their fire zones, play 7-man coverage on the back end. They want to do this and make the quarterback constantly have to work all game long in passing situations and have to react very, very quickly to, are you getting pressure? Try and figure out where your hots are, how to take away your hots with these sim pressures, and constantly apply pressure on that. And yes, it is very similar to a Steve Wilkes defense. Those two guys have a very similar approach to how they go about things. Wilkes plays more zero coverage than Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, while he brings a ton of pressure, he doesn't bring hardly any all-out blitzes. He has a couple, but it's pretty rare. So they want to do that, but it does put a lot on his secondary to hold up in coverage. And specifically, that's why he can use Antoine Winfield. A lot of times, hots are going to be to tight ends and running backs as they have advantageous releases out of where they are. And that's why Antoine Winfield is so important in their defense, is that he's able to pick up so many of those hots in space and make tackles. So that is why that defense becomes really hard to play against in those situations. But the Buccaneers have had a lot of injuries at their corner spots, and so teams have been attacking their corners. So when we actually look at the matchup, when we look at the 49ers passing game versus theirs, it's a place that the 49ers have actually a big advantage, because passing versus pressure, meaning how the Buccaneers have held up when they have gotten pressure, they are 31st in the league. So they are doing a good job of getting pressure. They're not doing a good job on the back end of taking advantage of that pressure. And teams are burning them against that. And that speaks to their injuries in the secondary and them not being able to run exactly like they want to. Their passing verse when they have no blitz, so they're not sending pressure, is 28th in the league. So that is a place where the 49ers have a big advantage. And a lot of this is also coming down to the short passing game. Their linebackers have been struggling in coverage, and those corners. So short passing, they are 28th in the league. They are passing versus play action. They are 30th in the league. They are struggling in those situations. Where they're doing better is passing versus no play action. When they blitz, they are doing okay. They're at 14th, but when they're just trying to sit back in coverage, they don't do too well. They are good against quick passing, which is the ball getting out quickly, but not short passes. Those aren't the same things. Now they are doing better against deep passes. They are 11th in the league at deep passes, but as plays develop, as they've been struggling getting pressure with their front four alone, that's where they've also been struggling. They are 29th in the league. So while we are a team that wants to establish the run, this is not the game to do that. They are very good against the run. They are number 2 against rushes outside the tackles. They are number 4 against designed runs. They are number 7th in overall rushing efficiency. They are number 11th in rushing versus a light box. We are number 32nd in rushing against a light box. I've been telling people this all season long. The 49ers are not facing a bunch of stacked boxes, and that is extremely frustrating to why we haven't been able to get the run game going. We are not facing a lot of stacked boxes and are still not able to run the ball. Part of that is not having George Kittle. Some of that is having Connor Colby out there. They have not been able to put it. A lot of that is the receivers. These are not our blocking receivers that have been ingrained into the 49ers way of blocking as a receiver. Brandon Ayuk was a phenomenal blocking receiver. Juwan Jennings is a very good blocking receiver. We don't have those guys. Ricky Pearsall was coming along. He understands the mentality that it has to be behind it. Kendrick Bourne, it's there a little bit, but he hasn't been asked to do that since he was last here with the 49ers. MVS has never been asked to block a whole lot in his career. Hasn't done a good job at it. When you look at Sky Moore, he was with the Chiefs. They did not ask anybody to block ever. So I'm just kidding, but they just asked people to hold. But our receivers, that's a lot of why we are struggling to run the ball. We are terrible at running the ball outside the tackles. That's just a fact of where we are rushing outside the tackles. We are 32nd in the league. That speaks to how poor our receiver blocking is and our tight end blocking. We are 32nd at rushing outside the tackles. The Buccaneers are number 2. So, we're not going to be rushing outside the tackles. That is why things are being more difficult. So when teams don't have to worry about the matchups on the outside, they're able to keep everybody inside the tackles. They set really hard edges with their ends, and then their linebackers are able to fly downhill. And that is That's one of the reasons we are struggling in the run game. It's just being difficult when you can't spread a team out horizontally in your run game, and you are a horizontal run game. It makes it real tough, and that's what we're facing this season. But we are 32nd in rushing under center. We're 24th out of rushing from shotgun. We're 25th in rushing versus stack box. We're 30th in rushing in the red zone. 31st in on designed runs, and our overall rushing efficiency is 32nd. These are not good rushing numbers, and we are facing one of the best rushing defenses this week. So when you look at the matchup, it is like 5 stars on NFL Pro of advantages for the Buccaneers. The only places that we do have an advantage: rushing inside the tackles, and it's barely, and quarterback scrambles, which is not going to be a thing this week. Mac Jones, if he can throw, he did not throw much in yesterday's practice. I do believe that was more of them trying to rest his oblique. He's got an oblique injury, so that's where it is. But the Buccaneers, they want to run the ball. They can't run the ball. The only team worse at rushing they're one of the worst teams in rushing in the red zone. They are 31st in rushing in the red zone. We are a very good rush defense. We are number 1 in rushing in the red zone. We are the number 1 rushing defense with a light box. We are number 6th in overall rushing efficiency. We are number 2 against rushing inside the tackles. That speaks to how good Fred Warner is when you're talking about rushing from against a light box, inside the red zone, and inside the tackles. That tells you that is a Fred Warner stat. That we're doing a good job up front, leaving him free to run around, and that Fred Warner is going and making a lot of tackles. So, these are strength on strength or strength on weakness when you're looking at both teams are good at stopping the run. They are really bad at running the ball right now. And I do believe a lot of this has to do with the injuries for both teams. As 49ers fans, we look at our injury report and we say we are very, very injured, and we are. Now, we are more injured than the Bucs team, but this Bucs team is still pretty banged up. I know everybody sometimes we just look at the injury report and we say, okay, ours is a lot longer than theirs. They don't have hardly any guys injured. I will say the Buccaneers have 10 guys on injured reserve right now. They have 10 guys on injured reserve. They had 10 guys on their injury report, and 5 did not practice yesterday. So they have 15 guys who have not practiced, either out for this game or are most likely out for this game. So that should put things in perspective. They are banged up too. We're just banged up a little bit more. We have 12 guys on either IR or PUP, and I'm not counting Malik Mustafa. He's technically still on the PUP, but because they opened his practice window, but they have not elevated him or activated him from that. I think they want to get through the week of practice. And this is going to be something that happens on Saturday, that they activate him from the PUP, because they have to release somebody else to make room on the roster. And what they want to do, they don't want to release somebody at the beginning of the week. And then you don't want to do that. Have that guy get picked up by another team. And then Malik Mustafa has a setback on Friday today. Like, that's what you don't want. So you're going to wait till the very last minute before the game. You're going to then try and release somebody to then stash him on the practice squad and activate Malik Mustafa from the PUP. So 12 on IR and PUP, not including Malik Mustafa. We had 16 players on the injury report. 5 did not participate. So it's very similar as far as likelihood of not playing, of how many guys are actually going to be out. The 49ers are looking at probably 17 guys that won't play in this game, according to, if you just say people who didn't participate in Thursday's practice don't play. 17 for us, 15 for them. So both teams are very injured going into this game. It just kind of comes down that the 49ers have more, I think, and more significant. When you were missing a Brandon Ayuk, when you were missing Brock Purdy, your starting quarterback, and you're missing a Nick Bosa, those are very significant pieces that you are missing on your team, and George Kittle. Those are very significant pieces. So it will be interesting to see how we then both teams try and match up in what has been their weakness. Not as much as the Buccaneers in against the pass. The Buccaneers have been a very good passing team. Baker Mayfield is playing very, very well. I think I've been one of the people that's been hard on Baker for a long time because it's hard to shake the impression you have of some of his performance with the Browns, and then going to Carolina, getting released, and then picked up for like one game by the Rams. You kind of like that doesn't tell you this is somebody who could be an MVP quality quarterback, but he's playing extremely well, extremely well. He is scrambling like crazy. He's creating a lot of plays outside of the structure of the offense, and a lot of this is then putting together and helping get Emeka Egbuka free down the field, where the teams have to be aware of Baker rushing and getting those first downs. So how are we going to go about this? The 49ers, we don't shadow receivers. That's not a Robert Saleh thing. We did it once in a couple games. I want to say in 2018, we had Sherm shadow. I think it was Devontae Adams when he was with the Packers. It may have been in the 2019 game. It's been very, very rare that Saleh has ever had anybody shadow somebody in man coverage, just because the reason why is Saleh doesn't like to tip his hand ever. He and even more so as time has gone. We were a very three shell defense. A lot of times our presentation was going to be single high safety, and you didn't know if it was going to be zone or man, or a blitz coming off with man coverage behind it. So sometimes we would bail into a two deep coverage from that look, but that was very much what we were based downs. Right now, we are very much a light box presentation. That doesn't mean we always play as light box. What I mean by light box presentation is that very much you're going to see this looks more like a Fangio defense, where you're going to see four defensive backs in a shell look pre-snap. And we run a lot of cover four. This is something that we've done going back 2020, 2021, 2022. We ran a lot of cover four as teams were kind of spreading things out differently. So we've run a lot of cover four, and we from our cover three, what we do is we generally bring a safety down and kick D winners out into from the weak side. We run what would be called cover nine. Cover nine buzz is the technical term I would use for it. Cover three is going to be a strong side cover three. Cover nine is a weak side cover three. And so we do weak side, we bring the safety down into a hook, we kick D winners out into the flat and match the running backs out there. And we end up then having that safety pick up crossers, intermediate crossers. That's what we run when we run a lot of cover three right now. It's a lot of cover four. Cover three buzz is a lot of what you see on those first and second downs. Sometimes we come with run blitzes, so we're going to present that four, and then when that safety comes down, he's not actually coming down into a hook zone. He's coming out of blitz. And so we slant the line and we blitz off the side, and we run a three deep fire zone underneath that or behind that. So that's one way that and that's more of a run blitz. It really is. It's not a pass blitz. It's a run blitz to try and then change all the gaps that everybody's accounting for. So we are very much this kind of a presentation. And when you do that, I know this is a long way to get around to that. When you do that, if you start having Diamador Lenore travel, that starts indicating, and then he doesn't travel other times, that's indicating we're playing man. Now we're playing some sort of zone. And so you don't even have to force the offense to do these pre-snap motions and things where there are opportunities for the offense to mess something up, to make a mistake and have a negative play with a penalty of some sort, of pre-snap penalty. So we don't like to travel. Again, on third downs, we love to show man coverage. We love to show these press looks and then bail out into our zones. Well, if you're having Lenore travel, you're asking Lenore to then play some routes, which I'm sure he could do, but somebody else has to play the deep third zone that he plays a lot of times. And that's not to be determined by you. That's to be determined by the presentation of the offense. So you may ask Fred Warner to be playing a deep third zone, something that he doesn't really know the technique for. He doesn't know the drops for. It may be D winners who doesn't play a deep third zone. He's got to understand how to play that zone with leverage, how to play the footwork on it. And I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want to disguise this so much that then you have D Winters playing a deep third zone versus Chris Godwin or Emeka Egbuka, just because you were trying to show this and have the advantage on some man coverage situations of Diamador Lenore on Emeka Egbuka. I don't love that idea. And by the way that we go about our defense, and I don't think Robert Saleh will either. So I don't expect us to shadow him. I do expect us to try and keep eyes and a feel towards him. We play with what's called a vision technique. So 99% of your vision is on the quarterback, 1% is on everybody, is on your receivers. So there's a lot that's put on the defenders to use their peripheral vision and then identifying what routes are in front of them to your film study of what routes they run behind those. So if you see a shallow crosser, you have to immediately react to the Rolodex of what routes they run based upon where this guy release down that numbers. Did he release down the hash? Did he release outside the numbers? Did he release 1 foot inside the numbers? All those things trigger with the shallow cross that there's one of 3 routes. And depending on where they released on that, we know this is where that one's going to be. So you can keep your eyes to the quarterback and then flow to the zone or flow to the drop of where it's going to be, but keep your eyes to the quarterback so that when they make the throw that you can jump on it. We're still working on that. That's one of the reasons we haven't gotten a pick yet, because those guys are working through that vision technique. Those young guys aren't used to working with that. You'll see my son here. He's in the office with me. My wife was away getting an appointment. You want to sit up here? All right. He wants to sit up here and join the podcast with everybody. Ain't no doubt this one's mine. But this is my son, Jesse. He's joining the podcast. So everybody give Jesse a howdy do. You're going to see him pop up over here. What's up, Dre? Good to see you in the show. We did a show last week. That was awesome. We went over some film because his channel is not monetized. So don't have to worry about him losing the monetization like I do on this one every time we put some other Cayman's Island coming in with another super chat. We appreciate it. Is there anything we could do to help generate a bit more pressure? I just don't feel like the guys in the building I don't like the guy like we have the guys in the building. I think he's saying doesn't like who we got to do it without blitzing. And I will say, I went over a lot of our pass rushes with the Rams with Rob Stats Guerrera yesterday on our show, weekly show on the Gold Standard podcast. And when I watched the film, I actually felt like we generated more pressure than it appeared from the game. There's a couple things that happened. One, Matthew Stafford is ridiculous. He played really, really well in that game. He made some unbelievable throws under pressure, throws that there's only a handful of guys in the world in the history of the NFL that can make some of those throws. One of them is a big play in overtime that got them way down there. He's rolling to his left. He's sliding to his left, makes a throw from dead middle of the field to a window that was actually a lot smaller to Tutu Atwell by the sideline. He's got a window only about 3 yards wide. He makes that throw. It is a 59-yard air yard throw. Okay, so it travels 59 yards in the air as he's sliding to his left, throwing to his right into that window. It was unreal. There's only a handful of guys ever that make that throw. And he hit him in stride. Like it was a ridiculous throw. In it, we have some of it was when you go into a short week and you're down Nick Bosa and you are trying to get the other guys like Sam O up to speed on not just your, the base down stuff, but you have to get them up to speed on all your different pressure paths, on all your different stunts and twists and exactly how to run these. And when he's got to peel off on his rushes and pick up a running back. There was two times he busted on that. That's a big deal. And so you go, okay, well, that's a little rough. And then you lose Yetur Gross-Matos, who runs a lot of these stunts as well. and now you put Kalia Davis in there, and then you lose Kalia Davis, and now you're putting Jordan Elliott and CJ West in to play in a role in a NASCAR package that you haven't asked them to, they haven't gotten any reps on, and you're trying to run some of these stunts. There was one play, I showed it yesterday. CJ West and Samo are working what's supposed to be a stunt. Their footwork was great. CJ West was running great footwork. It looked identical to Sam O's on a stunt, but he wasn't supposed to be the stunter. And so they both slant inside. CJ West is supposed to try and occupy the guard in there and open up a lane for Sam O. They're both trying to run a stunt. Bryce Huff wins off the left side, or off his side, and Saleh talked about this in his presser yesterday. So it was really funny to see that after we had done our show. He was like, he goes, Huff had about 2 or 3 times in that game where he nearly made a play to end the game. And that was one of them, because he's screaming off the edge. He's won, but we have no contain on the other side because CJ West busts his stunt. And so he's supposed to be contained on that side. He's not even there. Stafford just slides about four steps to his left, hits a throw to the running back over the middle, and that's what set up the 4th and 1. That game should have been over, like, at that point. Like, it should have been could have been a strip sack. And so, you know, that's one of those situations where I go, I don't know if that's necessarily a personnel problem, or if it's a bust because guys haven't gotten reps at those spots. I will also say there was a number of coverage busts in that game. There was D Winters was not gaining enough depth on a bunch of his drops, and he was allowing zones behind him that were just too big. And that one of those set up that big throw to Tutu Atwell. D Winters didn't gain enough depth. They ran a read route with Devontae Adams, which sits down at 18 yards if the safety's sitting over the top of it. And Jason Pinnock tried to jump it, and that he should have been climbing and picking up Tutu Atwell on the crosser, but he doesn't, partially because he's trying to drive on the read route, because D Winters doesn't gain enough depth, and D Winters doesn't have anything influencing him underneath. He's just not retreating enough, gaining enough depth to take away those routes. There was another one. It was very similar. They hit Devontae Adams, and he's just sitting there with no one within 7 yards. And we get a good rush. It was CJ West, I believe, one on his rush, and he's right there in Stafford's face, and Stafford's able to just deliver it because some guys are wide open. There was another one. We had a win. I think it was Jeter Gross-Matos. He was coming in, or is Michael Williams. He's coming in, and Stafford just turns and he looks Fred Warner off like crazy. Fred takes a step about 5 yards over, and he hits Devontae Adams right behind where Fred was. You know, Fred's got to understand that that's Matthew Stafford. He's gonna look you off. So, like, I really look at a lot of it and say we need to be tighter and more disciplined in coverage. There was another play. We had 2 guys about to just light Stafford up, and there was a pre-snap communication. They were trying. You could see everybody signaling 5-5. You could see Fred doing it. You could see Jason Pinnock, Marquise Siegel, and somewhere in there, Renardo Green was supposed to be in man coverage on Puka Nacua. He drops in a deep third. And so Puka Nacua is wide open. Nobody's around him. They hit Puka, and they make the tackle, and they get up, and you could see Pinnock and Siegel both look at Renardo's, going, we said 5. It was a check to a man coverage. And so, when I see those things, I don't necessarily say that's a pass rushing problem. It's that those two things have to be married. We saw that earlier in the year where there was a good marriage of pass rush and coverage. Right now they have to get a little more married up again, and so there's been some disruption there. So what I will say is the best way for them right now to improve their pass rush is to be more sound in coverage. You have some young guys in coverage. I know it feels funny, doesn't it? He keeps reaching over and touching the mic. But that's how I see it right now, is that's the best way they can help it. As far as us offensively, this is going to be a game where it's going to be challenging, because you wish you could get a Juwan Jennings or a Ricky Pearsall back this game. You feel like if you could get one of them, or George Kittle if you had them. I know George Kittle's not coming back in this game, but you feel like if you had one of them in this game, that this game really becomes, I feel like we should be 5-point favorites. Right now, we're 3-point favorites. Just because of the struggles that the Buccaneers have had in some of their coverage. But this is going to be a game you're going to have to throw a lot of screens. You're going to have a lot of quick passes to attack them. Don't let them, just come at your guys. You have to run enough to keep them honest. Run some play action. Their defensive line, they're going to try and go after Connor Colby. So you have to try and do what you can to help that side and help Connor Colby not be exposed too much. Connor Colby, watch the game. He's starting to get exposed on this. I saw this. It was the game against the Cardinals that this started to pop up. And ever since then, you've been seeing defensive tackles and different rushers take advantage of this. They will attack his outside shoulder. Watch the game and watch this. They're going to attack his outside shoulder. And what he does is he takes 2 steps and then he extends with his right arm, with his inside arm. He extends with that first, not his left. And what they're doing is they're waiting for him to extend with his right arm. And then they're running a swim or rip move. They use one of those two to beat him inside, and he gets beat almost every single time. He doesn't have good balance. He overextends. He gets his shoulder and his hip out of place when he goes to extend with his right arm, and teams are grabbing him and they're pulling him in, and then they're working in behind him. Then they're running stunts on him on these. They're going to run games to his side. They're going to do that. And it becomes difficult because you say, okay, well, we want to help out Colton McKivitz against the Jared Verses of the world. We're okay with Trent Williams against the Jared Verses of the world. But what you are seeing now is teams are saying, okay, well, you're fine with Trent Williams being over there on an island, so you're not going to give any help. We're going to run stunts on Williams and Colby all day long. And Connor Colby is completely unaware of stunts that are happening. This is a problem. And then when they aren't having stunts, because teams are attacking his outside shoulder and then they're beating him inside, that Mac Jones got hit 5 or 6 times from Connor Colby missing his blocks. He's got a really high blown block rate. So they've got to figure out a way to help protect him, because teams are attacking Connor Colby more than anybody else on our offensive line right now. And it's not even close. It's not even close. So they've got to figure out a way to do that. They do that, and this matchup looks much better. You're going to be able to move the ball as long as Mac Jones is playing. I don't know. Martinez has won everywhere he's been. He was the MVP of the UFL, but NFL is a little bit different. So we'll see how that goes. Overall, it's going to be a really good game. I do not expect this game to be outside of a 1-score game. This is going to be a 1-score game. I don't even want to make a prediction because of what it's going to be. These are 2 gritty teams, and they will find a way. Baker's gonna get some scrambles, and we're gonna be mad, and we're gonna want to throw things at the TV. It's gonna happen. There's Emeka's probably gonna get an explosive on our safeties. It's gonna happen at some point in the game. I'm just like trying to mentally prepare myself for that. I thought we were going to get absolutely dog walked against the Rams with the way that the team was hurt and banged up and everything that was going into it. And then to come out of that game with a win, you feel like you could beat anybody. Like there's nobody in the NFC that you can't beat if you could win that game. So, we're gonna my son, he's super chill. So he's a well-behaved kid. He is. He's really, really chill. But I will say that I always take the 49ers, almost always. I think I've only actually had a score prediction that wasn't the 49ers winning only a handful of times in the past few years. But I'm gonna say this is hard. Because it could go one of 2 ways. This is either going to be a defensive slugfest, or it's going to be a shootout. We thought that the game between the Buccaneers and the Seahawks was going to be a defensive slugfest, and it was for the first half. And then the second half went wild. If you watch that game, it was crazy. Both quarterbacks were slinging the ball around and getting huge plays everywhere. So I think it could be like that. I think you're going to see spurts where neither team can get anything going, and then you're going to see spurts where it seems like neither team can be stopped. And so I'm gonna give a score prediction as my son is conjuring up the score prediction. I'm gonna give a score prediction of 23 to 16 49ers. I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be 23-16 49ers. I think this is a one-score game, but we do edge it out. I think our red zone defense is going to be better than theirs. I think we are starting now, especially with what I saw from Shanahan last week. I think they're starting to figure out where they can apply pressure in the red zone offensively to other teams, mainly through our big personnel. Both of our touchdowns last week came off of big personnel packages. Our first one came from 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. We had Juice, we had Farrell, and we had Tonjes in there. The only receiver on the field was Demarcus Robinson. Then our second touchdown came with 23 personnel, 2 backs, 3 tight ends. We had McCaffrey, Juice, Tonjes, Farrell, and Braden Willis. And those from there, we ended up going 23 personnel and then running the classic spread slot formation where we were spread out wide because of the way that we have built a roster construction where we love these versatile players. So in that, I think our red zone offense, we're going to be leaning more into that. And that seems like a good path towards success because now you really are going to put teams in a bind as you've been able to get time on task and get some of these other plays of heavy sets in spread formations that teams are going to have to choose. Do I put five and 6 defensive linemen on the field inside the gold zone, which is within 10 yards? Or do I bring in more pass defenders and then you get heavy set runs against those? So I think that's where they're going to end up kind of elucidating into some success in that way, that they're going to be able to score more there. So I do like where our red zone is headed because it is a different approach than what we've seen. And I think that that's doing well. And Todd and Shanahan generally does really well against Todd Bowles. So I think all of those things lead to it. I think our red zone defense is going to be better than theirs. I think both teams are going to get into the red zone the same amount of times. They're going to kick more field goals than we do. So anyways, I appreciate everybody coming in. I appreciate the super chats. Really helps us along. Helps all the prep on these shows. Most people don't realize I usually spend about 2 hours in prep before these Friday shows, trying to really take a look at the matchups. Thank you for being here, even though I'm flying well, I'm not really flying solo. I got a different co-host today. The bald man is gone, and the thick-haired little guy is here. They swapped hair. You know, he's got none on his chin, all on the top of his head. Adam has none on the top of his head, all on his chin. So we did a little swap of co-hosts today, but we made it through. Appreciate everybody joining in for us. Check us out Monday morning. We will be here. Win, loss, tie, rain, shine, snow. There's not going to be snow here. I will have to figure out how I'm going to broadcast because I'm going to be at a campground on Monday morning. So I'm just realizing that I got to figure out how to make that happen. Maybe Monday night we may be going. I don't know. I'll keep you posted. I'll try and do that. So anyways, appreciate everybody being here in the show. I don't have anybody to cut off this time. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, can you say go Niners? Go Niners.